And we're live. Uh, Welcome back to the show, my friends. And today we are so lucky that we are joined by someone who knows firsthand what it takes to turn pain into purpose, struggle into success. Please meet my friend Steve Scarnie. He is a high performance coach with over 2 decades of experience helping entrepreneurs and professionals unleashing their full potential. His philosophy is built around what he calls the will to win. From a difficult childhood filled with learning challenges and insecurity, Steve reinvented himself and dedicated his life to guiding others towards personal and professional growth. If you ever feel stuck or defeated or simply unsure what you need to do to reach your next level, this conversation may just be for you. So without further ado, please meet my friend Steve Scarnie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show, Vincent. I'm really excited to share my knowledge and wisdom today and help people develop their resilience and be able to have that will to win.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I've been to your podcast and where you talk about habits that help people be healthy and increase their wellness and well-being in order to achieve amazing things in life. But today, I am really interested in digging further into this concept that you've developed that you have used yourself to overcome struggle and to achieve success in your life, which is the will to win. Can you tell us more about the will to win and the foundation of this concept, please?
Yeah, so back when I was in high school, I obviously went through a lot of challenges with my learning, and I really struggled to learn basic concepts. And through sheer determination and a willingness to learn and get, I guess, information and knowledge from mentors, teachers, and other leaders to sort of help get me on the right track. Um, because I wasn't gifted in terms of being able to learn, so I had to really put in a lot of effort, more than most kids. And often, I remember one of my teachers who said, "Results don't indicate Stephen's progress." Like he works so friggin' hard. So I always would go the extra mile. Um, but a saying that one of my aunties told me that really caught fire in my mind is where there's a will, there's a way. So although you may not see the way, although the way may not be clear, you may not know exactly what steps you need to take, you're committed to finding out what steps are required. And if you don't know them, maybe there's someone else who does, who can show you the way and act as a guide and give you some strategies and tips to be able to achieve whatever it is you're seeking.
Wow. So, is it fair to say that basically it all starts with the 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 want and the need to achieve more in life? Because a lot of people, and it may not resonate to a lot of people, but some people may say that, look, I don't know what I want to achieve in life. So what you're saying is that when there's a will, there's a way. You at least have to start with the want and the will before, even if you don't know how to get to the end goal, to the finish line. Is that what you're proposing?
Absolutely. It's that burning desire inside of you to want to be able to achieve. You may, like I said, you may not know how you're going to do it, but the next step after that would be to get to certainty. So you need to find a sense of certainty in what it is you're trying to achieve.
So in a lot of in a lot of people's life, I do think that sometimes you get inspiration and you get inspired and encouraged by things that happen in your life. And while some people are encouraged by, that desire, that burning desire to succeed, that burning desire to achieve something, sometimes people are also inspired and encouraged by the unfortunate situation. That's why we often hear people saying that, I've hit rock bottom and this is where I'm going to change. This is my turning point. I've read a little bit of your books, of your excerpts from your book, and I do know that you've gone through a lot in your earlier, younger life. Does it ever, did it ever happen in your life in the way that you feel that this is my rock bottom, this is my lowest point, and I'm going to, make some changes and change my mindset in terms of I have the will to win? Does it resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know when I was in high school, like especially around about year 8, 9, and 10, I would just constantly be getting into fights. I'd be, making jokes in class. I'd be, literally avoiding work, not taking responsibility, ignoring teachers. And yeah, I wasn't the best student at that time.
What
Um,
changed?
well, I realized that my life was going downhill. I realized that if I keep behaving the way I'm behaving, I'm not going to have a future. I'm probably gonna be in, a very difficult situation and maybe not be able to make any money, not be able to do the things I truly wanted to do. So I developed a drive to want more, and I decided that I was going to go to university, even though a lot of the teachers said one teacher specifically said, "Well, you're probably not going to amount to anything worthwhile. You're better off doing a trade. Education's not for you." And for a while there, growing up as a kid, I was on medication because I grew up in a really unstable living environment in the foster care system, and I was going from foster home, and it made me really insecure. And I didn't really need the medication. What I needed was a more stable living environment.
So it seems like what you're describing is a little bit like a mental block, because clearly you later on figure out that you didn't need the medication. So things that were keeping you from achieving more, from wanting to achieve more, were probably things that are in your head. And I'm not saying that to minimize the impact of mental blocks, but what do you think people can learn from your experience in terms of differentiating between whether or not they do have legitimate need for medication, or medical intervention, versus people who just need to get, you know giddy up and remove these obstacles that only exist in their mind?
Yeah, so look, understand that in a lot of cases, medication is essential for people's mental health and well-being to help them in that journey. But there are also a lot of cases where medication is not entirely necessary. And there are other measures, behavior modification measures that can be put in place to improve people's situation, such as changing your environment, such as changing the group of people that you associate with, such as obtaining mentors, teachers, and leaders who can guide you and provide you with wisdom and direction. And maybe there are a lot of people who are in environments where they can't get out of it. They've got family who are maybe psychologically, physically abusive, and that's a very challenging situation. Um, so you may not be able to change your environment, but you can change the way you respond in your environment. And there's a quote by Tony Robbins that really stuck with me, and he said that it's not your conditions that determine your destiny, it's your decisions that determine it. So, yeah, like when I realized that, I don't have to accept my conditions. I can actually turn them around by making better decisions. That was a real turning point for me.
Do you see this pattern and cycle happening in your clients when it comes to the mental blocks that they have to achieve greatness, to achieve something, or to make changes in their lives? Do you think that that almost like resign to their condition or to their situation, that is the very thing that keeping them from succeeding?
Yeah, often they say, well, in the first 7 years of being a child from 0 to 7, that is the imprinting stage of life where, all your behaviors are developed and your personality, the way you behave, that's a critical period in your life. And if that didn't go well growing up, if it was a struggle and there was a lot of adversity during that period and you weren't nurtured and looked after and encouraged, inspired, and told that you were great, you're amazing, the world is your oyster, you can achieve anything, well then there could be limits. There could be, I guess, patterns that you've created that are saying, well, no, I can't do this, I can't do that. And everyone has an inbuilt fear protection mechanism. And we've had that for since the beginning of time. And the only way to develop that, or one of the best ways to overcome that, is to develop the will to win. And that means being able to break through the limits that were set during childhood. Or even there are, I mean, people still set limits after childhood, like, but if you're being conditioned with a mindset that fear, like, you should stay comfortable, you should just avoid danger, you shouldn't challenge yourself, well, that pattern is going to be pretty tough to break. So it's always about interrupting specific patterns that you developed either during childhood, sometimes your teenage life, or even adulthood. So yeah, and that means identifying what that limiting pattern is in your life that's sabotaging your progress.
So I love that one of your slogan is endless possibilities, because I feel that in our lives, when we accept that we are limited to certain things, it's almost like we're putting ourselves in a box where we talk down ourselves to that. Oh, Dr. Vincent, you can't do this or you can't do that. Instead of, sure, give it a go. Maybe you can do it, maybe you can't. But at the very least, you give it a go and then you try and maybe you will succeed. What would be the concrete steps? Like, I don't know, when people are asking me, how do you change your lifestyle when it comes to, say, for example, I want to improve my digestion, then things that I will tell them in terms of improving their gut health would be hydration, fiber, making sure that you move, making sure that you take your steps and everything. So in the way of changing this mindset, in the way of making our own self believe that there are endless possibilities, what would be the first three steps that you would talk to your clients in terms of unlearning this limitation that probably they put on themselves?
So yeah, the first three steps they would take to be able to unlearn these patterns and behaviors that have been limiting them. And I don't have a specific structure that I
Because
follow.
everybody
It
everybody's
depends.
different.
That's right. Depends on the person and what their circumstances are. Um, but number one is to become self aware, to become aware of what that pattern is, to then acknowledge the pattern, and then three, determine what steps you need to take to break through that pattern. And I remember listening to Dr. Dennis Waitley recently, and he said something along the lines is, you don't break patterns, you replace them with better ones. So we're constantly going through a cycle of replacing patterns, disempowering patterns with more empowering patterns, because those unhealthy patterns are still there in the distant. Like they could pop up any time if you don't keep them contained. So yeah, it's critical that you become self-aware and you actually replace that habit.
And speaking of habits and characteristics, what I mean, you have a lot of clients, you work with a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs and professionals, in terms of achieving their goals in life, right? Be it personal or professional goals. W- What, in your opinion, based on your observation, the differences between people who win and people who lose? I'm sure probably they are like the storyline that you see over and over again, and you associate those characteristic with people who win, and some characteristic are really obvious in the people who lose.
Yeah, great question. So number one is that you have a mindset where you never give up. no matter what the circumstances are, you're determined to win regardless of the situation. And you know that there are going to be challenging times. There will be times where you will doubt. There'll be times where you question your abilities. And I know I still do from time to time. And that's what drags people down into the category of the loser, is that you start to question what you're capable of. And then you start saying all these, I guess, negative things about yourself that actually provide evidence to the very thing you don't want. If you keep, I guess that there's a saying that I have, and it's, if you um, keep telling yourself what you don't want, you'll only continue to attract more of it. So stop telling yourself what you don't want and start telling yourself what you do want, and believe that it's on the way, that you can achieve it, that it is possible. And anything's possible if you're willing to put in the work to make it happen.
Well, where there's a will, there is a way. That
Absolutely.
makes a lot of sense, and it actually reminds me of something that my mom told me because, like you, Steve, I was also told by one of my teachers, my math teacher, when I was in high school, that I would never amount to anything just because I was not very good in maths. But I remember my mother told me that when you have a dream, it is essential that you yourself understand your dream. You don't have to worry if people don't understand it because it's not their dream. As long as you understand it, then that's what matters. And that resonates a lot with what you say in terms of making sure that you don't give power to that self-doubt. You don't tell yourself what you don't want. Instead, tell yourself what you want.
Absolutely. Own your identity and be certain, get certain, and get references, get experiences that are going to enable you to be able to continue in the path that you want to go in. And what I find is the more evidence you can get that supports your abilities, the more confident you become in pursuing them. And every positive experience, every win adds up, it stacks up.
So you're not talking confidence as an already built characteristic. You're basically talking and defining confidence is something that you build along the way. Every step and every goals that you achieve, every win that you celebrate adds up to stacking up to this confidence, and it's not something that happens overnight.
Not at all. It's a gradual process, and you don't just, confidence doesn't just fall into your lap. It comes with countless experience.
How do you
And
deal Yeah, sorry, go
no,
on.
no, you do. How do you
How
deal?
how do you deal with failure then? I mean, each and every one of us probably have our own method and way to deal with failure. But from a professional perspective, for someone who coaches people how to win, how would you suggest to someone who just lost and use that losing and turn it into power to then prepare themselves to win the next time the fight comes around?
Yep. So there's never, ever any failure. There's only ways in which you can improve. So it's seeing failure as opportunity. Failure provides feedback. So there's going to be lessons that you take away from those losses that you can use to make improvements and try something different. Do something that is maybe not something you'd normally do. It's really, you're pushing your comfort zone. You're going above and beyond. You're not being afraid to try something that will challenge you. But in reality, it's definitely that ability to be able to look at your losses and work out, how do I turn these into wins? So taking the lessons away and using them as leverage for the future.
And in order to do that, someone needs to have that drive. Someone needs to have that discipline. And often, when people are just starting their career or starting their business or being a business owner themselves, I think that the major red flag when it comes to this kind of journey and adventure is burning out. So how do you help your clients to prevent them from being burned out? Because this is this is a marathon. It's not just a sprint. This is something that requires everyday discipline. What are the things that you suggest to your clients to make them, you know, work very hard and smart, but at the same time looking after themselves as well, both physically and mentally?
Well, all work and no play is no fun. And the thing I've noticed with most business owners, entrepreneurs, is that they don't have very much time for play, or they don't really make play a priority or incorporate it into their life. And I think it's very important to add that element into your business to, I guess, put in, like, schedule a time, even if it's just 1 hour, like, a week, like, do something, or have a day where you actually do something that you love, something that you enjoy that doesn't relate to business. And that's going to make you feel better. It's going to bring renewed sense of joy into your life, and it's also going to boost your performance. Um, because if you're always working and you feel like you just work, 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 and that's it, it's like you're in this constant rat race, and it can be quite I guess, disheartening because you don't have anything to look forward to. You don't have anything you're excited about. So I think you need to have at least one thing each week that you can look forward to, that you can do. That could be a sport. It could be some kind of hobby. It could be even just watching a movie. Like, it
Or
doesn't have.
watching our interview.
Yes, that too.
So I wonder about this because when we are in the pursuit of our goals and trying to make something happen or build a business or get a promotion, we're humans, right? So we can't help it but to compare ourselves with others. Maybe it's coworker aiming for the same promotion. Maybe it's another brand as a brand owner. Maybe it's another brand that we perceive doing better than us, or maybe it's someone else or our friends even that have achieved their goals and we haven't. Do you think comparing ourselves with others, that, is it a bad thing or is it a good thing?
Well, it's nor bad nor good, but it can be a problem when you allow the people who are doing better than you to get to your head and cause you to feel inferior and insignificant.
Because
And
it's really hard now, Steve, right? Like when you look at Instagram or even LinkedIn,
yeah,
and it looks like everybody's doing well, everybody's millionaire, everybody, has achieved the highest form of success. And it's really hard to differentiate reality and social media reality.
yeah, so true. And but also a lot of people who you think are like on top of the world also have their own personal struggles, challenges, and difficulties that they're going through, and things aren't always as perfect as what they seem. Um, but what I find personally, like, I can see there's lots of people who are ahead of me, who are doing much better than me, and I look at them from a standpoint of, okay, well, you may be, doing better than me, but what can I learn from you? What lessons can I take away from your experience and success that I can apply to my own life? I don't have to be at your level, but I can learn from you. I can grow from you. And I'd rather partner with people than see them as a threat and be able to, yeah, leverage off them in a positive way without worrying about how far ahead they are of me.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I do think that this is why they say that when you are doing really well, you need to move to the bigger pond. You need to move to the
Mm,
bigger pool, and you need to move from the lake to the ocean, or whatever
mm,
the actual saying says. But I think the essence of that is that when you surround people, when you surround yourself with people that you want to emulate or you want to be like, you can't help it, but you're absorbing everything from their journey. I mean, if you're open to it in terms of learning, in terms of inspiration, and I do believe that it is very important because someone will always be ahead of you. And it, like you said, Steve, very, very profoundly, it is up to you to use it, whether or not you will feel
Good or
inferior
bad.
and insecure, or you want to learn from them, right?
Definitely.
Okay, I want to ask you one last question before we close
Sure.
off the interview. If you can tell someone, your client, or even yourself, one daily habit or mindset shift that they can do to improve their life, be it professional or personally, doesn't matter, but to improve their life, what would that be?
Yeah, well, it would be to become certain about what your goals are and to actually write them down and take time to review them, to keep them fresh in your mind. Because what happens is that we have goals, but we constantly lose focus of them because life catches up with us and we get distracted and everything else gets in our way. And like we're working hard, but then we're losing track of our goals. So it's keeping your goals, your vision, your purpose, your mission at the forefront to make sure that each day you're doing at least one thing that will move you closer towards your goals because some progress is always better than no progress. So it's remaining aware, staying focused so that you can continue to progress and not lose sight of your dreams.
Very well said. I really love that. So we shouldn't immediately strive for perfection. Everyday improvement builds up your dream and goals rather than waiting for the big thing to happen in your life.
That's
Well, thank you. This has been such a powerful conversation, and thank you for sharing your story. If people want to work with you, people want to find out more about you, how do they get in touch with you, Steve?
Yeah, they can connect with me on Instagram, Steve Scarnie, STEVESCARNIE, and it's the same on TikTok, YouTube, and I do have the website, The Will to Win, and the Will to Win podcast, which you've been on, and I really enjoyed that interview. So we'll have to get you on again sometime.
I
Yeah,
love
so
that. I love that series. And you have talked to people from different walks of life. And I do think that the the underlying foundation is always coming to how we view things that happen in our lives, but use it to empower us rather than to put us down. Which I really appreciate that podcast series, Steve.
thank you. I couldn't agree more.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. And you are watching the core conversation with Steve Scarnie. And I can't wait to have you on again, maybe for our second season, because I would
Sounds good.
really like to dig more into your your earlier life, because I will get the book and I will read it, and I recommend you all to read this too, because sometimes when we see a successful person, we think that everything is rosy. We often don't think about all of the struggles and pains that they have experienced in their lives, and the fact that they can turn this into something that propel them forward is so inspiring. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening and watching. We will be putting this episode up on my Substack. It's askdrvincent.com. And I will also put all of the details for you to contact Steve if you want to. Until next time, see ya.
See you.